Hey everybody, this is Kevin Sutton, chair of the Education Practice Group here at Miller Johnson, and happy to be with you for another installment of our 5-minute message. Today I want to talk a little bit about some of the developments that we saw from the U.S. Department of Education over the course of the summer, specifically two sets of guidance documents that they issued in July that specifically address the issue of discipline for students with disabilities and students with 504 plans. And so we want to look specifically at guidance from the U.S. Department of Education relative to the IDEA first, and a Dear Colleague letter that was issued on July 19th. And what we see there is guidance from the Office of Special Education Programs. And they give us this quote that they, in doing a review and looking at data, determined that districts nationwide need to improve their implementation of the IDEA to resolve discipline disparities. In issuing this guidance, OSEP urged districts to examine their existing policies, practices, and procedures to determine the causes of discipline disparities and identify ways to inform educators on using practices besides exclusionary or aversive discipline. Now, there's a lot of heavy terms in that guidance from the U.S. Department of Education, but I think it's very clearly premised on the idea that they believe there are discipline disparities. They use that phrasing twice just in that quote, pointing out the fact that special education students seem to be getting disciplined and removed from the school environment in a way that is statistically relevant and concerning. They also use the phrase exclusionary or aversive discipline, suggesting that perhaps these instances of discipline for special education students are not exactly what we should be doing in terms of issuing discipline. So to help sort of guide educators in terms of what to do and how to navigate challenging behavioral situations that might arise with special education students, they've issued a 55-page guide called Questions and Answers Addressing the Needs of Children with Disabilities and IDEA's Discipline Provisions. This was issued the same time as the Dear Colleague letter. Very, very helpful guide. I won't go through all, obviously, 55 pages of Q&A during this video, but we'll provide the link to you, and we encourage you to review the document. It's set up in a very sort of easy to digest way and talks about this issue that is going to be so central to the way OCR and the U.S. Department of Education are reviewing disciplinary situations as it relates to students with IEPs. Also issued guidance about that same time on students with 504 plans, and issued a 36-page guide called Supporting Students with Disabilities and Avoiding the Discriminatory Use of Student Discipline under Section 504. I think the title is very, very telling. Avoiding discriminatory use, just suggesting that they have found discriminatory use of disciplinary procedures for students with 504 plans. Within that guidance document, there's one section called disciplinary removals that significantly change a student's placement. And there's a lot of attention given to this idea of informal exclusions that may be happening with students with 504 plans. And you see the quote there on the screen. Sometimes schools informally exclude students without invoking the school's disciplinary procedures. They are very, very clear in this guidance that even these informal exclusions are subject to the same 504 requirements as formal disciplinary exclusions. And they're clearly pointing out that they believe districts are not following this with fidelity. Further, on this guidance, they indicate that exclusionary discipline refers to the removal of a student, whether on a short-term or long-term basis, from class, school, or other educational program or activity for a violation of the student code of conduct. They then give us a laundry list of examples of what exclusionary discipline might look like. And some of these I thought were eye-opening, right? Detentions, in-school suspensions, out-of-school suspensions, suspensions from riding the bus, expulsions, disciplinary transfers to alternative schools, and even referrals to law enforcement. And so clearly the U.S. Department of Education has looked at the data for the last several years and said, man, students with IEP, students with 504s are being removed from school at a prolific rate, and a rate with which we are not comfortable. And so they have indicated that we need to be much more in tune in terms of our disciplinary procedures and not be removing these students who have needs either with an IEP or a 504 from the classroom or the school environment. Again, very, very helpful guides. We'll provide the links to those as part of this message, but please review those and make sure that your staff is ready for the school year ahead as it relates to disciplinary issues and our students with 504 plans and IEPs. That's all for this message. Thanks so much. Take care.